Welcome to a new episode of the Executive Fire podcast. Today, my guest is Emma. She's a coach and a certified practitioner of the Executive Fire Index. And we are showcasing two things in this debriefing. One is we look at the Certified Practitioner Part F in the report, which is a condensed version, which only has the graphs, not the text. So it's meant for certified practitioners. And we are also looking at the point A to point B comparison. So report A to report B. We know that FE is done twice at least, and there's typically 6 months or more in between two reports. And in case of Emma, it was over 1.5 years in between. And we are looking in which values have changed and which have not changed. And with this, and without further ado, directly into the debriefing with Emma. A wonderful, warm welcome to our new episode of our Executive Fire podcast. And today we have a special guest, Emma. Welcome, Emma.
Thank you. Thank you for your warm welcome, Karsten. Happy to be here speaking to you today.
And this time, Emma, you are a coach, you're an expert, you are also a certified practitioner of the Executive Fire Index. So today we will do a slightly different debriefing because the Executive Fire Index has a kind of professional version, which is much condensed. It's the so-called Part F, which is the Certified Practitioner section, and we will go through that report. But Emma, before we do that, maybe tell us about how you work and how you apply the FE in your work.
So, first of all, maybe just a kind of a little bit about me. I grew up in London and now I'm based in France. So I've been in France now for about 25 years. And I work with different types of clients, mainly C-suite, executive managers and entrepreneurs. That's been for about 25 years now. So the subjects that I'm working around are leadership, interpersonal communication, helping people ease into a new role, resilience and stress management, with a bit of mindfulness as well, because I've trained as a mindfulness instructor. So in terms of how I use the FE, I would say there are kind of three main areas or ways in. First one is doing one-off debriefs with LC often, and that's great because I get to work with people around the world, and the FE works across cultures. So that's wonderful. The other way is in coaching programs, maybe at the beginning of a coaching program, just to get an idea of where the person is in terms of their resilience. So that's not as often. And then the third point really, and that's the main one, which is probably quite a different entrance point to other practitioners, is I work a lot with non-native English speakers, helping them to become confident communicators in English, mostly with senior French leaders. So that's the kind of basis. And I help them with their high-stake presentations, meetings, and we talk about issues related to business, management, and personal development. So that's where the FE assessment often comes in and gets us into deeper conversations concerning resilience. They get to explore their stuff, which they find really useful. And in some ways, it's like a non-official resilience coaching program because it hasn't been pushed by human resources. It's in a different language than their own native language, which I feel gives them, to some extent, I don't know, they give themselves their permission maybe to explore a bit more and open up a bit more. So those are maybe the three areas that I use the FE in for the moment.
Okay. And you are also really an early adopter, which is why I asked you to be on that show. And what would be a better fit than to showcase something new? And the executive fire index has one of its many features is that it's measured twice, because we not only measure traits, which are stable over time, but we also measure habits and the actual state of life satisfaction, which is by its nature volatile and changes over time. And you have done the executive fire index twice, Emma. And so today we will look at not only the certified practitioner section, but also how to compare two reports with each other.
Mm.
Shall we dive right? And you haven't seen it yet, Emma,
And I
right?
haven't seen it yet, so I'm really excited.
So that's a premiere. So let's go right into this. And there we go. Okay. So what do we see here? Is that big enough? Good. Can you read it well?
Yeah, I've just put my glasses on.
Okay.
Even better now.
So this is, this is bare bones, the part F. There's no text around it. This is only the graphics. This is really for people who have gone through the certification, who know how to read it. And what you see here is you see a graph that you've seen in the actual report. This is from part A. And then also you see a table next to it. And the table shows you the ID of the report. So the higher the ID, the younger the report, the older the ID, the older the report, the smaller the ID, the older the report, and we see the date when the report was recorded. And so it's a little bit counterintuitive to read from right to left in that case, but this is kind of the way it's designed right now. And what we see here is in the graphic, it shows the values of the second measurement, of the most current measurement. And on the data table, we see also the measurement of the one before. And in your case, this is it's 1 year and 10 months, if I do the math correctly, in between. So it's a lot of time. And so let's see. What we have here is on the trade side, it was in February 23, it was 59. Now it's 58. That's pretty much the same. So trades are stable. On the habit side, from 83 to 82.5, so almost the same on the habit side overall. But the interesting thing is on the state side, you improved from 60, or your state improved from 66 to 73. So that's a nice little development. I mean, if you compare that to what happened in your life in that last 1.5 years, what is there anything how you can make sense of that development?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have to say, I'm absolutely thrilled with the consistency of the scores in terms of the fact that the traits, are the same, which is what we say this FE does. So I'm really happy about that, and we know that the habits can change. Yeah, definitely. There have been things that I've put into place in my life. We can talk about that in detail or not, which would have an impact on state. So I feel like over the past year, I've been kind of transitioning to a certain extent to maybe take my foot off the accelerator a little bit and put my foot more on the brake and be really clear about what's important for me, or reinforce what's important for me, and doing the work that we as coaches do with our clients, but doing that deep work with myself as well, and making decisions based on where I want to go, what's important, purpose, and things like that.
Okay.
That makes absolute sense.
Yeah, and it seems to show, right? I mean, on the habit side overall, it seems very stable, but the state side has improved. And so let's look in the other areas. So let's do a deep dive on traits. So we measure 3 traits: need for stability, aka need for emotional stability, then extraversion and originality, aka openness for new experiences, those are different terms that are used in the literature for that. And what we see here is on the older version, so for example, need for stability 38-41, so pretty close. Extraversion 44-40, pretty close. Originality 70-75. So we see that there's kind of up to 5 points on the subtraits. There's kind of a movement, but the overall compound score for traits remains pretty much exactly the same. So these are, I would say, tolerances in measurement, right? And you didn't have the old one kind of next to you to do exactly the same scoring. But is there any way that you can make sense when you connect the dots? Can you make sense of it, those changes?
And again, I think it just shows how, how consistent this assessment is. Would you describe, in terms of need for stability, would you describe, and the questions you Karsten, 38-41, is that, I don't see that as something that's quite a big change. Would you?
No, I would say it's rather a measurement
Minimal, isn't it?
tolerance, right? Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
3 points. Yeah. So it's not really significant. So the idea is, and this is obviously the textbook idea, if you craft the items well, the traits remain stable over time. And obviously this is not a zero tolerance, this is some sort of tolerance, but if you think of it, this is a 5% error tolerance, right, in between, which I think for psychometric instrument is quite good. And the research would show, unless your life situation changes dramatically, like I don't know, becoming a parent, or kids who are leaving the house, or having a new partner, having a new job, living in a new country, right? Unless that big change happens, typically we remain within a certain corridor around our values, or around our typical values, right? And in your case, that would show that you have 2 out of 3 possible protective factors. One is in the need for emotional stability domain, where you're stable. And the other one is in the openness for new experience, originality domain, which is you're open for change. This is nothing that scares you. It's something that you have a positive attitude to. And on the extraversion side, you identify as a more introverted person. And so this is gray here. And the important thing here is, while extraversion is a protective factor, introversion is no risk factor. So the correlation is high extroversion correlates with resilience, but low extroversion does not correlate with low resilience. This is why we have color-coded it like that.
So we can see that it's pretty stable. I mean, in terms of the extroversion score, I would describe myself more of an ambivert, so it will depend on the context and the situation. So I don't know if I'm 100% convinced on that concept, but I can see myself in both, with more of a tendency to want to resource, without people as opposed to with.
Right. I can perfectly relate to that. Okay, so let's look at the next one then. That's the maturity of coping strategies. That's the habit side. And here we differentiate between self-management and self-awareness. And again, we see a lot of consistency, actually, right? We see in terms of self-management, we see that it will move from 84 to 87, which is very high, by the way. So we know now, we have done some benchmarking, and we can now say that the average across different job families and career levels is around 70 in terms of the habits. And in terms of self-management, you increased by 3 percentage points, or 3 points. And in the self-awareness part, your score went down from 82 to 78, 4 percentage points. So again, zero-sum game in total, but a slight shift, focusing more on the doing than on the reflecting. Is that making sense to maybe move a little bit from a tendency for ambiguity to a tendency for kind of pulling through?
Yeah, there's a definite in terms of the doing. Um, for example, this year I I decided that I'm gonna do, like 2 yoga classes per week. I
Oh,
do Tai
wow.
Chi, and I go to the gym. So knowing, and it's really interesting actually, because it's been over this, over 2024. So knowing that, because I love my job, because I love, this job of coaching and what we do, and it's a wonderful vocation, and even more than that. Um, I know that I can do long days, and I know that, you know, it can seep into the personal stuff too, because when I'm reading stuff, it's all so interesting and so passionate about it. So I, at the end of the day, I put in activities because I'm a freelancer, so I work from home, have my office at home. So I know that it's really important for me to get out to sport. For me is just a must. So I really, on the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I have things blocked in. And I decided this year that I would be happy to do longer working days on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and that I was going to block my Friday afternoon and Friday morning for admin and to kick back a bit, to read, to do the stuff that we don't have time to do. So that makes complete sense.
And what is interesting, most people that we work with, um, and again, we are still in the process of doing different research bits around that, but typically self-awareness is higher as self-management. This is the so-called knowing doing gap, meaning that we are all having that feeling, oh, I should be doing this or I should not be doing that, and then we do it nonetheless. You have kind of an opposite expression. You have your self-discipline is actually superseding the self-awareness part. So that could mean that you've made an extra effort on execution. I mean, on doing the things that you've recognized for yourself to be important.
Yeah, and which I just explained after maybe 3 years of working very hard, having my nose to the ground, um, thinking about, well, okay, I needed to do that during those 3 years, and now it's important to put things in place,
Okay.
and that's what we can see.
Yeah.
That's what we see.
And so let's see how this has made an impact on your life satisfaction.
Mm.
So this is the next one. And so what we see here, we can see the vocation, the profession is 90. And the profession came up from 60 one and a half years ago. So quite some changes, Emma. Uh,
Mm.
then we have relationships, and relationships came up from 73 to 87. Also a big step up there. Then we have physicality, uh, which came from 60 down to 40.
Uh-huh.
So I'm curious about that. And spirit, knocked up another 5 points. So again, my question to you, how do you make sense of that?
Well, let's have a look. Profession doesn't surprise me at all. Again, after over this past year, I've been working hard to think about what's important for me, what I'm saying yes to, what I'm saying no to, where I want to work, how I want to work, and how I can be a best service to my clients. And that is really all coming together. That is all really coming together. So that really explains that. I constantly, I'm a lifetime learner, and I'm constantly investing in learning, wanting to be a more artful coach. So I've invested quite heavily in that to just to to keep doing the best that I can do in my profession and be of service. So that's really nice to see. That's really nice to see, and I know that inside, and I feel that. But when you actually see the measurement, it's like, oh wow, that's concrete. So
Big
interesting.
jump, eh? 30 points.
Yeah, it is a big jump. Yeah, and it makes sense because I've worked. to go in that direction. So it's great to see that. Spirit, not quite sure how Spirit went from 70 to 75, but that's
Spirit is values. To which degree, you live your values, you feel meaning in what you do
yeah,
here and now. And we will see later that meaning is super, super strong for you.
yeah,
So also personal growth, that also kicks in here.
yeah. So thank you for that reminder. So that does make absolute sense. I believe as a coach that you just have to keep working on your presence and your self-awareness and understanding yourself to be able to, I think you have to get in your own way to be able to get out of your own way when you're working with clients. So that's a constant for me, constant investment, which means that, I'm looking at values, I'm looking at what's important, purpose. So thank you for that reminder because that explains that too. Um, Relationships, yeah. Nice. That's on the up too. That's cool. Um, Physicality. I heard your question, Emma. I'm curious. 60 to 40. Menopausal woman, Karsten. It's a transitional moment in many ways. One of my I love sport. I have a very sporty background, and it's something that gives me a lot of self-worth, and it's important to me. And I guess, there's the when you get to a certain age, you have a change in the body, change in maybe capacities physically. Um, so I think that that's been influenced in that score. And yeah, I sport's really important for me, and I'm learning to do sport for sport's sake as opposed to having this objective, and that's tricky.
Got
That's
it.
tricky.
So it's sport for the sake of sports rather than sports for the sake of competing either with
Yeah.
others or with yourself, right?
And sport for the sake of sport, yeah. Objective could just be health,
Mhm.
but I often have to have like uh, it could be for a charity, like a 10 kilometer or I tried I've been trying mini triathlons
Mm.
last year and the year before. Very, very small ones. No, big ambitious thing. But yeah, that really helps me to focus and to be disciplined.
Okay. Okay. Amazing. Thank you, Emma. Um, and now we come to the central part, which is really the FIRE model. And here we look at the developments across the different spheres. And all these spheres, all but personality, represent habits. So personality, as we can see on the bottom here, hasn't changed much. As we already stated, I move up from the bottom up. We can see biography. It's to the point, 70, very, very consistent. Attitude is a little bit interesting. It went down from 91 to 77. Attitude is this capability, how we move ourselves from victim mode to shaper mode. So that's a muscle that we train. And maybe, I don't know, but maybe the muscle was less needed. Maybe that is could be one explanation, but I'm curious for your thinking. Then mental agility, pretty much same thing, 80 to 77. That's tolerance. Energy management, so how we deal with our own emotionality, 97 to 94. We have the mind-body axis. This is four things. We have sleep, we have movement, sports, we have nutrition, we have mindfulness. That went up 75, 88. We have the authentic relationships, which correlates with the relationships in the state. Also, that went up from 72 to 88 quite significantly. And meaning consistently at 100. So a kingdom for your thoughts.
Wow. Wow. Again, I'm very impressed by the consistency of this tool. There's my perfectionist tendencies coming in there, Karsten, that you know very well.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Um, yeah, yeah. Look at that. Biography, personality, really consistent. Attitude. Not not quite sure necessarily why that's changed. I definitely believe that, I believe that my locus of control is within, without a doubt.
In other
Um,
terms, I'm just translating for
yeah,
others who are not
I can
familiar
shape
with the
my life.
term. Yeah.
Yeah, I can shape my life.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I've just done the Enneagram in a supervision context. So that's really interesting in terms of stuff that's coming out, again, learning about myself, learning about what presses my buttons to continue that journey. Yeah, as you said, maybe it wasn't quite as necessary at the moment. The energy management and the well, let's look at the mind-body axis. The mind-body axis doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah. So having trained in mindfulness and as a mindfulness instructor, there is a commitment to going on retreats, to taking time to have space to kind of stop. So that's not surprising. That's not surprising at all. And as I said, I've I've put in my second yoga class on a Friday morning, forcing myself not to take clients. Um, and it makes a difference. Definitely makes a difference. I'll do like a massage once a month. So I'm trying to walk the talk in terms of working with people and having them decide, what this would look like for them and knowing what it will look like for me. I think massage is one of the things, some people are really into talking therapy. Massage for me is just like, my therapy. So there are real conscious efforts there to work on the mind body axis, the energy management as well. Because I know that I can just get into my job, I can just forget everything else, and it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm tired, I've not taken the time to, eat properly. Um, so I know that. Hmm, yeah.
But authentic relationships, that's also a significant development.
Yeah. I'm very aware of my values in terms of honesty, sincerity, um, having fun, and sometimes just not taking yourself too seriously. So, yeah, um, I have, some really good friends that I've had for years. We have meaningful relationships because we can talk about stuff and we can be ourselves, which I think is, so important to come without, the label on the can, just the can. And again, moving through age, parents, family, getting older, what's important? What's important to me? What's important to say to those, that I love, that are close to me, my partner. So yeah, maybe that explains that in some way.
Okay. And I still, reflecting a little bit around the attitude part.
Yeah.
So your mindfulness training program, when did you start, or in what time frame did you do that?
I started meditating in 2009, I think it was. And then my way, in fact, when I discovered the MBSR program,
Mhm.
I thought, oh, this sounds like something that's going to be really good for helping people or being of service to people in stress management, resilience. And really, at the end of the day, I had to begin with myself. The mindfulness stuff for me is one of the best tools that I have for me to be the most artful coach I can be. So, presence and listening and being able to work on those, for me, those are the two pillars of coaching. And for me, that passes by mindfulness.
Okay.
So, yes, I'm a trade instructor. I've done, I've given a cycle of that medical protocol. Um, but I don't feel for the moment that's my, doing mindfulness programs is my vocation right now. Using mindfulness for myself and with my clients, yeah, that that's wonderful, but maybe not, yeah, maybe not for the moment instructing the MBSR course, or maybe a version of it. Who
Okay.
knows the future? But
Okay.
it's what enables me to take stock, to question myself, to hold myself up, to, well, are you going in the direction you want to go in? Are you being fair? Where's your shadow character coming in? Yeah, it gives me and my clients space. There's the wonderful what's his name, Viktor Frankl.
Uncle. Hmm.
Yeah, and that quote touches me, around the space and giving oneself space to make choices and make decisions, and that for me is the key of everything, and probably the essence.
Yeah. Between stimulus and response, there is a space, there's a room, right? That's what he said.
Oh,
And I'm
and
just,
in that lies our freedom.
yeah, absolutely. That's the inner freedom. And what I'm wondering, so if we look at the values, from a distance, what we see here is mind-body axis has increased, and maybe that's because of mindfulness. That would at least make sense. It would roll up there, and that could mean that you have developed another set of muscles to stabilize yourself, to have emotional stability, to have emotional well-being. And the muscle that you have in the attitude section is less needed. So in the attitude section, it's very much how do I take a different perspective? How do I reframe? Also, how do I practice gratitude or something? And maybe that went more into that energy went more into the mind-body axis.
Mm. Yeah,
Or your life has just become so much easier that you had no triggers in the last 1.5 years.
it has become easier,
Okay.
in terms of responsibilities, financial responsibilities, having more time. It's definitely become easier,
Okay.
um, for various different reasons, and also the reason of um, what's important. What do I say yes to? What do I say no to?
Right.
So that's great. So I can see that's having, we can see that in the figures.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think the metaphor that helps the best when talking about the spheres is really its muscles. And depending on your movement, you train different muscles, right?
Mm.
And so if you don't do less of one particular movement, that muscle kind of goes away because it's no longer needed so much. And what we see oftentimes is when people have high trait values for need for emotional stability, meaning they are often irritated. Feel often hurt when they get criticized. They don't feel at ease to being in the front line, for example, on stage in the limelight. They want to be second or third row. Then what we typically see is high values for attitude.
Mm.
They need this muscle to regulate themselves, to get back into their normal state rather than this swinging pendulum. And maybe that's a bit of a context here.
Yeah, definitely perspective is um is something that I would sit down and think about if I'm swinging a bit too far. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So let's look at the resilience continuum. Um, Again, only minor changes. This is the from 84 to 87 in terms of self-management, and 82 to 78 in terms of self-awareness. So that's the measurement tolerance, and you're sitting there smack in this resilient box. And we're still working on to putting it live, but the new version, what we see here is right now the middle line is, so the difference or the transition from derailed to ambivalent, for example, is 50, and the transition from ambivalent to resilient is also 50. In the updated version, it will be 70. So because we know now from our benchmarks that the average of our sample is around 70. So that will be the new kind of the new definition. But even then, with this sharpened statement, you would still be sitting smack in the resilient part, right? Which, I mean, speaks to your life balance, to the routines that you've adopted and put into your calendar, and also making conscious choices about, if I do this, I don't do that, and I'm fine with that, right?
Absolutely. And I know also that can change. That can change too, and hopefully not into the red zone.
Yes, exactly. And if so, we all know that these are habits, right? So
yeah, that's
if
right.
it does, we just need to adopt a different habit, or it's a call for action to say, oh, okay, I actually need this, so let's get back to it.
That's right. Yeah.
So we do work, for everybody who listens, we do work with this metaphor of this skyscraper Taipei 101. And this is because it used to be the highest building in the world up until 2009, and it is built right in the earthquake zone. So it has all kinds of earthquakes and shock waves, and it has this pendulum that helps to stabilize the building on the top of it. And so when our inner pendulum is kind of triggered, this is what we refer to as mental traps. Okay. And so, Emma, what we see here is we see circular thinking went up.
Yeah, I'm quite good at that.
Yeah. I mean, see some mastery. We see some mastery there from 60 up to 70.
Wow.
Distorted reasoning, which is when our emotions kind of tend to reach out into our executive function, into our decision-making center, that we can make rash decisions or irrational decisions, or there's a certain threat that went down by 10 points. We see that unprocessed memories went down by 10 points. And we see that denying responsibility went up by 20 points. Now, I'm really curious about that.
Thought you might be. So what are you curious about in denying?
So denying responsibility, that would actually mean that you tend to be in victim. So denying responsibility simply means when I'm in a situation that is maybe not so great, that I blame, or I have a dialogue going on that blames other people, the circumstances, the system, the clients, my coworkers, whatever, my partner, for the stuff that I'm in, as opposed to, and then after some time going back to, okay, no, actually I know how this works. It's me, and it's only me, and let's look at how can I change the situation. So that will be the habits kicking in. But we know that the mental traps are very much connected to traits, which is kind of interesting. So I'm just speaking out loud, trying to make sense of that. So
say more about the mental traps are connected to traits.
Say again?
Can you say a bit more about mental traps are connected to traits?
Sure. So when we mentally ruminate, for example, when we are thinking in circles, that means we are not thinking productively. It's not self-reflection. It's just there's this one thought. There's this, and I can't go to sleep because there's this one thought. And this is typically linked to a sort of arousal that kicks in from something has hurt us, or something has hit our core, right? Something is bothering us, and we've taken it inside. We were not able to leave it on the desk for next day because it won't go away anyways. And distorted reasoning, for example, is when we are very emotional about a situation because, let's say, our values are hurt, and we are upset, right? Then we don't need to make a decision to be upset. We are upset, And then we need to use our habits to make sure that we don't do something that is against social norms, like punching somebody in the face, or swearing, or telling them what we really think right now, right? And so there's this, I have this impulse from my traits that typically kicks into the mental traps. And then I need to invoke my habits to make sure that I still have a job tomorrow, and my clients likes me, and my partner still loves me, that kind of thing, right? So that's the way this works.
Mm. So yeah, looking at, if I had to, if I without answering all the questions, I would pick one of those thinking traps that I would be more susceptible to, it would definitely be circular thinking. The denying responsibility, I think, I've managed to become a little bit more expert at that. And I can see that side of things in specifically in stressful situations where maybe I could have a tendency to become more rigid. That's when the perfectionist tendencies might rear their ugly heads. So I kind of would watch out for that. I'd watch out that because I know that, okay, okay, when one person says, makes a remark, okay, fine. When two people, okay, you need to start looking looking in your side of the court. So yeah, that's something that I'd watch out for in periods of life where I might be under stress. It might be linked to, probably more linked to family, actually. Probably more linked to family situations and contexts. And the circular thinking, yeah, definitely, that's a definite one. I feel like I've kind of positive circular thinking and, negative circular thinking. So if there's something linked to, and it's generally, circular thinking is generally more kind of work, I guess, work oriented. So oh, that didn't quite work out, or wanting to explore that more, and maybe we should have gone down this road or that road, putting the bar high for myself. So that's a definite one, and I would have my tools to put in place for that. But I really recognize that in myself. And then on the positive angle of that, so on the negative angle, it's rare when something keeps me awake, but it can do. And I often find that I would find solutions, for it. And then there's the circular thinking that keeps you awake or keeps me awake, which is like really full of energy and makes me feel enthusiastic, and I know what I'm going to do. And this, I'll get up in the morning, write out stuff. So there's like two sides to it. There's two sides to it, but definitely the negative side. That's when I would kick in with, okay, let's change the perspective on this. What am I telling myself? What's the inner narrative? So yeah, I recognize those things. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, let's keep in mind that this is a snapshot in time, right? So that only means when I'm triggered, this is what happens, right? This is how the pendulum swings for me. And then I trigger my habits to get my pendulum back to kind of a zero state, kind of a normal state. And I'm just wondering around this denying responsibility bit. One possible explanation could be adopting a practice to indulge the victim mode for a moment, right? So I have that, for example, when I feel, blue, that I call, I talk to my partner and say, okay, I want you to listen. I will whine now, and I don't want you to fix anything. And I want you to be on my side. And then I go for 20 minutes how bad it is. And she's kind of allowed to say, oh, you're really poor. I mean, this is really, really bad. And then after a while, like, yeah, stroke the head and stuff like that. And after a while, when I'm through, I had this cathartic moment. And then at the end, I can't listen to myself anymore. So that could be also one reason that
Yeah,
you allow yourself to indulge that more.
yeah, it's that's an interesting point. Yeah, yeah, I think I'm profoundly optimistic, which comes with advantages and dis for the good stuff. And hmm, and in this world today where
Yeah.
I feel so much gratitude and feel so lucky to have a roof over my house, to have people I love and that love me, then yeah, I probably would, I wouldn't give much time to that victim.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like I'd feel it, but I might not verbalize it so much. So yeah, I'm going to go and complain now. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll go and
Let's
do
do
some
that.
good
Let's do that. I'm
complaining.
with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, good complaining, and we can then get stroked,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
and then think, oh,
who
I
are we
can't
complaining
listen
about?
to myself anymore.
So who are we complaining about, Emma? I'm on your side.
I'm getting on my own nerves.
Okay, so this is the practitioner summary of all the different parts. So in hindsight, what are you, or looking at the whole picture, uh, what are you taking away?
Um, I love the FE. You know that. I don't stop saying that. And now I love it even more because I can see that I've made changes. I know I've made changes over this past year. So it was kind of destiny that I did this now with you. And I can see the changes in the FE in those places because they were real decisions on my behalf in terms of habits. And I can really see the difference. And I couldn't remember actually the first FE that I did and what it was like. So that has really had an impact on me in terms of um, you know, yeah, well done, Emma. Yeah, I can say well done, Emma. I can even stroke myself. So that's really, really cool. And then as a coach and a practitioner, wonderful to have this experience to be able to talk about and to use with the people that I work with. Um, Thrilled that what we say is consistent and constant is. So well done. Well done to you on that, to all of the people that work on this assessment. And yeah, being aware as well that that the in terms of the thinking traps when I'm triggered, that these are the things that I need to watch out for, and I have my things in place. And that's what I love so much about this assessment. It's so complete. We've got the routines, the behaviors, the personality traits, we've got life satisfaction, we've got all those scientifically, you know, proven areas that can help us with our resilience. We go into the management, self-leadership, and then the thinking traps. I sound like I'm doing an advertisement for the Effie. And I am, and I am in some ways because I've experienced it myself and I find it useful. Um, and yeah, I'm really happy to see that the decisions that I've made and what I've been putting in place has been recognized by Mr. or Mrs. or non-gender Effie.
I couldn't think of a better closing statement. Yeah, Emma, thank you so much for taking us on a journey through your resilience, your mental strength, your mental energy. And yeah, we'll be in touch. And maybe you'll be back here when we're, showcasing another trailblazing innovation. Emma, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Bye bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
So this was Emma and her resilience and mental strength. What kind of questions do you have? What resonated with you? Anything you would like to know or share? please get in touch with us via the contact form on this website. You find it on pretty much every page at the bottom, and simply reach out to us, and we'll be happy to assist you and listening to your or reading your feedback. And now, all the best, stay safe, and looking forward to see you at the next episode of our podcast, Executive Fire. Bye for now.